बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव जय राधे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर जय राधे जय राधा गोविंद जय राधे जय राधा गोपीनाथ जय राधे जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन धाम जय गौरानीताय जय गौरानीताय जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल। हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। हो गया।
Thank you, Asha Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for giving me seva.
Thank you for accepting the seva. So we are just waiting for Nitai Prabhu. Just 1 second, let me check.
बोलो कार्तिक। परित्राणाय बोलो।
विद्यानाय साधूना विनाशाय चतुर्दशा नाथाय संभवानि जुगे जुगे।
Very nice, Karthik. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Karthik wants to sing nursing Radha.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Karthik wants to sing nursing Radha. Okay. Namaste Narasingaya, Namaste Narasingaya, Ila Dila Dadari me, Ila Dila Dadari me,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes?
Yes.
Mithalai, Narasimha, Lalita, Hiranyakasipu, Anubringaya, Kesavujita, Hare Hare Rupa, Jai Jagdish Hare, Jai Jagdish Hare, Jagdish Hare, Narasimha Dev, Narasimha Dev, Narasimha Dev, Jai Jai Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you so much. ये सबसे छोटा डिवोटी है प्रभु जी हमारे ग्रुप में, कार्तिक. He was singing Nursing Aarti, प्रभु जी. We can't hear you. You're mute, प्रभु जी.
Sir,
You're,
how old is he?
अभी कितने साल का हो गया आशा माता जी कार्तिक?
36 years old.
6 साल का.
Achha, nice.
So thank you so much, Nitai Prabhu. So Hare Krishna devotees. So we are very grateful कि निताई प्रभु जी दोबारा एसोसिएशन दे रहे हैं हमें. सीसी के वर्ष के बाद प्रभु जी ने दर्शन नहीं दिए हमें, बट अभी कृपा की है हमारे ऊपर. एंड एक बहुत सुंदर टॉपिक है प्रभु जी के पास कि 9 principles which are based on the teachings and books of Prabhupada, that who can help us, which can help us progress in Krishna consciousness. तो इसको ध्यान से सुनिए, नोट्स बनाइए, और आई होप कि जो सेमिनार है 2 सीरीज में है, एक पार्ट आज है और एक पार्ट जो है अगले थर्सडे होगा. सो थैंक यू सो मच निताई प्रभु, वी आर वेरी ग्रेटफुल टू यू. हरे कृष्णा, ऑल ग्लोरीज टू प्रभुपाद. ओवर टू यू प्रभु जी.
Thank you. So I'll just say a short prayer and then I'll start. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Satsrutas Goswami Iti Namine. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Kauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Mancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So it's my very good fortune to be in your association again this evening. And first of all, I want to thank Giriraj Prabhu and all of you for your continued enthusiasm to hear Krishna conscious topics and discussions on a daily basis. Although the lockdown has been eased, but it is very inspiring to see that how you continue to cultivate this desire to hear every day, and that is such a priceless thing. So I'm very grateful to all of you, and especially Giriraj Prabhu, for guiding and inspiring all of you to continue to hear on a daily basis. So today I will attempt by your blessings and good wishes to share some things that I have learned from studying Prabhupada's books and also trying to apply them practically. I was very fortunate although I was not fortunate to be born in a devotee family, but when I was 19 in my first year in college in the US, I started attending Bhagavad Gita classes. And since then, since 1993, I've been trying to read Prabhupada's books and try to become a devotee someday. So it's been a wonderful journey, a lot of challenges, but overall, I don't think that I could be more fortunate than I have been, to be part of this process of Krishna consciousness. It's an out-of-the-world process, and despite so many struggles and despite so many challenges in the material world, this is our real hope. You know? So the principles that I will share, they're certainly not, you know, the complete comprehensive principles from the Shastras. All of you who have been practicing, you will have your own learnings. And so I don't want to come out as though that, you know, these are the only 9 principles. You will have, you know, many more learnings probably, so you can share those as well. But these are some things that have been very important to my heart, and they have helped me tremendously, and they continue to help me a lot. So I shared it with, you know, with a few devotees once, and they really liked it, and they encouraged me to share it with another group. So I shared it with them recently during this lockdown. And then Giriraj Prabhu and I were talking, so he said, why don't you also share with, you know, these group of devotees? So by your blessings, I will make an attempt to share these with you as well, and I hope you will find them meaningful. So the first principle is that...
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, one request. You can you do
Yes.
Hindi and English?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Yes.
So I can express my heart better in English because of my conditioning. But मैं try करूँगा कि, you know, जहाँ पे, you know, हिंदी में मैं समझा सकता हूँ, तो I'll try.
Thank you, Prabhu.
हिंदी में उतना natural नहीं निकलता है, लेकिन तब भी try करूँगा थोड़ा बहुत, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So पहला principle, what do we mean by principle? So there's certain rules that if we apply, अगर हम उसको apply करें, तो at least I have experienced के I feel I am making more advancement in Krishna consciousness. So ऐसा लगता है कि हाँ, Krishna consciousness जब ये apply करता हूँ, तो लगता है कि yes, भक्ति बढ़ रही है. और जब इनको नहीं apply करता हूँ, तो लगता है कि फिर से, you know, Krishna consciousness कम होती जा रही है. So the first principle is that we must have a clarity of the goal of Krishna consciousness and the basic siddhanta of Krishna consciousness. So Krishna consciousness का उद्देश्य क्या है, right? क्यों हम आए हैं, किस चीज के लिए हम, you know, endeavor कर रहे हैं, तो वो हर समय हमें always clear होना चाहिए. So why is that important, right? So there is a beautiful verse by Krishnadas Kaviraj in the first few chapters of the Adi Leela, and he says that Siddhanta boliye chitte na koriye alasa. So he says Siddhanta boliye chitte, right? That in the matters of Siddhanta, we should not be lazy. Na koriye alasa. तो हमें लेजी नहीं होना चाहिए सिद्धांत समझने के लिए. And why? Then he explains in the next line, इहा होइते कृष्ण लागे सुदृढ़ मानस. So अगर ये होगा, इहा होइते, right? Then what happens? Krishna lage, right? Our attachment to Krishna, what does it become? Sudrida manasa. So the mind becomes very strongly attached to Krishna. And Prabhupada explains that one should be particularly careful to understand the truth about Krishna. If because of laziness, one does not come to know Krishna conclusively, one will be misguided about the cult of devotion. So Prabhupada talks about the danger of not understanding Krishna conclusively, right? So he says that the danger is that one will become misguided, right? So we live in a world जहाँ बहुत सारे distractions हैं, right? Or forget about material distractions. Even in spiritual life, when we come in Krishna consciousness, there can be so many distractions. Today, like, you know, because of social media and the internet, There are so many opinions, so many arguments, so many, agenda-filled, arguments and exchanges that go on. So it can be very difficult to actually be situated in the right siddhanta of Krishna consciousness. So that's why Prabhupada is saying that it is very important to understand conclusively the basic siddhanta of Krishna consciousness, because that will help us, one, not being misguided, but there's some other things that it helps us as well. Because what happens is, जब हम बहुत सालों से कृष्ण भक्ति करते हैं, तो sometimes it क्या होता है कि एक रिचुअल सा बन जाता है. हाँ ठीक है, 16 माला कर रहे हैं, सेवा कर रहे हैं, राइट, थोड़ा बहुत सुन रहे हैं, राइट, बट what are we doing it for? किसके लिए हम कर रहे हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं, राइट? अगर ये forefront में नहीं रखें, so then things become very dry and ritualistic, right? So, and not only that, sometimes when we are doing, say, seva, right, and we gain some expertise, right? Say, for example, we are a good manager in the temple and we are a good leader, right? And then we gain so much appreciation of other devotees, so many praises, and then we gain so much influence, so much power, right? Then what can happen is that if the goal is not kept in the forefront, we can just get lost and just be attached to all the fruits that we get in that seva. And we can also forget what we are doing the seva for. So there are many verses in the Shastra to remind us of the goal of Krishna consciousness. And I have chosen 3 verses, and these 3 verses have been very important for me as well, because I try to keep them in the forefront. And the first one is from the Nectar of Devotion, right? And it says that Anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karma adi anavritam anakulyena krishna anushilanam bhakti uttamam. So what is Uttam Bhakti? Bhakti जो ज्ञान और कर्म से मुक्त है, right? Free of any desire for knowledge or for any material benefits. And it should be done favorably, right? And it should, our activities should also be pleasing for the Lord, right? So it's a very, very important verse, right? And we must understand this and keep this in the forefront. And similarly, there's another verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Save Pumsam Paro Dharma Yato Bhakti Radhokshaja Ahituki Apratihata Yayatma Suprasiddhiti. So what is Paro Dharma? What is the ultimate dharma? Bhakti that is unmotivated and uninterrupted, right? So again, no material desires and nothing can stop it. आज अच्छा हो रहा है तो भक्ति करेंगे, कल बुरा हो रहा है तो एक स्टॉप मार देंगे, एक ब्रेक लेंगे. No, ahituki apratihata. Only that bhakti can ultimately satisfy the self. So to the extent our bhakti is free from material motivations and it is uninterrupted, to that extent we will become more and more satisfied in our lives. Right? And the third verse is given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right, in the Shikshastakam, that he says in the third verse, fourth verse, Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadish kamaye, mama janmane janmane ishvare, bhavatad bhakti raituki twahi. So in this, he also makes it clear that what we shouldn't aspire for. If we see that all our material desires, right, predominantly center around three main things in this world, right, which is a desire to enjoy the opposite sex, right, which is a desire to get wealth, and the desire for fame. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that I do not seek these desires. So what does he desire? He desires, and he shares that what we should desire as aspiring devotees, that we should desire for, again, unmotivated and uninterrupted bhakti, right? And even free from the desire of any mukti, right? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Janmane Janmane Ishvare. So he is even not interested in mukti. So this is very important for all of us to understand and keep this goal in the forefront, so that these goals, or this goal of Krishna consciousness, can guide us, can be the guide for all our activities. So जो भी हम करते हैं, right, जो भी सेवा, जो भी साधना, right, तो हमें सोचना होगा कि how close or how much is it in line with these goals? Because if it is not in line, and if this goal of Krishna consciousness, pure goal of, serving Krishna without any materialistic desires, free from even, desire for knowledge, and doing it favorably for Krishna's pleasure, So if we continue to ask these questions, then we will always, even if we go off the wrong track for some time, we will come back. Right? Or even if sometimes our motivations are not right, then we will try to steer our motivations towards the real pure goal of Krishna consciousness. Right? And so we should keep these goals in the forefront. And regarding the basic siddhanta of Krishna consciousness, I just want to share two things which sometimes as devotees we overlook, right? कभी-कभी हम भूल जाते हैं और या तो हम उसको ज़्यादा emphasis नहीं देते हैं. But these two things are like core principles of our siddhanta, right? So the first one is that Krishna consciousness also means Lord Chaitanya consciousness. So if we are cultivating, or if we are trying to cultivate Krishna consciousness without trying to cultivate Chaitanya Mahaprabhu consciousness, then our bhakti is not complete. Right? And this is explained very nicely again in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, right, in the Adi Leela chapter 8. And there are some very strong verses by Krishnadas Kaviraj, and even many stronger purports by Srila Prabhupada, on this point. Right? So in text 9, in the 8th chapter, right, Krishnadas Kaviraj says, Krishna nahi mane tate daitya kori mani. He says, Krishna nahi mane tate, right? So जो कृष्णा को नहीं मानता उसको दैत्य कोरी मानी. उसको क्या मैं मानता हूं? दैत्य, असुर मानता हूं, राइट? असुर मानता हूं उसको. और फिर वो कहते हैं कि चैतन्य ना मानी लेता इसे दैत्य तारे जानी. So he's saying चैतन्य ना मानी ले, जो चैतन्य महाप्रभु को नहीं मानता तैसे उसको भी दैत्य तारे जानी, उसको भी मैं असुर मानता हूं. और प्रभुपाद उस परपोर्ट में लिखते हैं कि therefore both so called devotion to Gaura Sundara without devotion to Krishna, and so-called Krishna Bhakti without devotional service to Gaurasundra are non-devotional activities. So just think what Prabhupada is saying. He's saying that agar hamari bhakti, right, is only towards Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without bhakti towards Krishna, और inversely अगर हमारी भक्ति सिर्फ कृष्णा के प्रति है और चैतन्य महाप्रभु के प्रति नहीं है, तो वो दोनों ही नॉन डिवोशनल एक्टिविटीज है, तो दोनों ही भक्ति से परे है वो. So he says, if one wants to be successful on the path of Krishna consciousness, he must be thoroughly conscious of the personality of Gaurasundra as well as the personality of Krishna. तो हमें दोनों को अपने चित्त में, अपने कॉन्शियसनेस में लेके चलना पड़ेगा. तो भक्ति टुवर्ड्स कृष्णा, उसका मतलब भक्ति also towards Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then in the, continuing one, in the next purport, Prabhupada says, one cannot be complete in Krishna consciousness unless he accepts Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates as the only means of success. So he says that हमारा कृष्ण कॉन्शियसनेस इनकम्प्लीट रहेगा, राइट, अगर हम चैतन्य महाप्रभु और उनके जो परिषद हैं, राइट, उनको नहीं मानते कि दे आर द ओनली मीन्स फॉर सक्सेस, कि उन्हीं के थ्रू, राइट, हमें कृष्ण भक्ति में कुछ लाभ मिलेगा. एंड देन इन द नेक्स्ट purport, in purport 11, Prabhupada again makes a very, writes a very strong purport again. He says, it should be noted that unless one worships Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is useless to become a devotee of Krishna. And unless one worships Krishna, it is also useless to become a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Such devotional service is to be understood to be a product of Kali Yuga. Just see how strongly Prabhupada is emphasizing that अगर हमें कृष्ण कॉन्शियसनेस में बढ़ना है तो हमें लॉर्ड चैतन्य महाप्रभु और कृष्ण को सेंटर में रख के चलना पड़ेगा. So ऐसा नहीं कि हाँ बस कृष्ण भक्ति हम अपना माला कर रहे हैं, we are reading Krishna book, but if we are not conscious of the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and actually this is the mercy of Krishna himself through his incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? So there is no difference between Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we must always keep that in the forefront. And at the same time, we must understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not like the other avatars, right? So he is to be considered like Krishna. And we must be conscious of this principle. And the other very important principle that we sometimes also overlook, that Krishna consciousness comes as a blessing from our faith, right, in Guru and Krishna together. So we have to have faith in Krishna. When I say Krishna, means Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the same amount of faith also in our Guru. Yasya deve para bhakti yata deve tatha kuru. Tasyati kathati artaya, right? Prakashante mahatmana. So this knowledge is revealed, right, to one who has the same faith in the Guru as well as Krishna. So हमें गुरु के प्रति भी उतना ही फेथ रखना पड़ेगा जितना हमें कृष्णा में है. Then only we can get the real blessings of Krishna consciousness. And this is explained in many different purports by Srila Prabhupada, in many prayers by acharyas. We sing, 2 prayers every day, और उसमें बहुत clearly ये principle समझाया गया है. यस्य प्रसाद भगवत प्रसाद यस्य प्रसाद न गति कुटोपि. तो Guru ki kripa, ya acharya, Guru means the principle of Guru, right? Guru, right? Guru, their Guru, their Gurus. So, a whole line of great acharyas, right? So by their mercy only, we can become Krishna conscious. And without their mercy, yasya aprasada na gati. तो हमारी कोई गति नहीं है, ना गति कुटोपी. And same thing is again in the Guru Puja, right? That only, by our faith in Guru, right? Everything is revealed. Right? Je prasade pure sarva asha. Right? So by their mercy, by our faith in the Guru, right? So it is a very important principle, and I was so happy that you all have gone through this course of, understanding the Guru Tattva, this ISKCON Disciples course. And even though you may not want to take initiation now, but this is a very important principle to understand. Because if we take initiation as a formality, and then we say, chalo yaar, socially, sab yahan diksha le rahe hain, to main bhi le leta hu, it's just a formality. Then what will happen is that we may end up in a situation where we do not have a lot of faith, and because we don't have faith, our advancement in Krishna consciousness will become adversely affected. So we must always remember this, because this is a very critical piece of our Siddhanta. And many of you who read Prabhupada's books, sometimes there is a phrase that he uses. He calls it the secret of success. Right? And he uses it in many different ways. Sometimes he will say secret of success is to be engaged in devotional activities. Sometimes he will say, something else. But the most use of this phrase, right, is in this thing that we are discussing, right? He says that, Prabhupada says, in many of the verses, many of the purports, right, in the Bhagavad Gita and especially in the Bhagavatam, right? So this is in the first chapter of the Bhagavatam, right? First canto, first chapter, and in the purport of, just 1 second, huh? Sorry. This is in the first canto, first chapter, 8th verse. And Prabhupada says that the secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting his sincere blessings. And there are many other purports that Prabhupada says the same thing. And I will read, just 1 or 2 so that you can understand that how important this principle is, right? And in fact, just this phrase Prabhupada, has used, the secret of success, it's so beautiful. And इससे पता लगता है कि Prabhupada emphasis कहाँ दे रहे हैं, right? So Actually, I've lost, just 1 second. I've just lost but I'm just going to pull it up. So in the third canto, right, Prabhupada says, for spiritual achievement, the easiest path is to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and to serve him with heart and soul. That is the secret of success. Right? Then he says that in the second canto, 9th chapter, verse 8, purport, he says, following the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the only duty of the disciple. And this complete faithful execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the secret of success. Right? And in the same purport, Prabhupada says, the secret of success is to receive the sound from the right source of a bona fide spiritual master. Right? And then in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada also says the same thing, right? And in many, many other purports, I could go on, we could spend the whole rest of the session just quoting, different verses, different purports in this point, but I'll not do that. So just to emphasize how important this principle is. And this does not mean that we become, just fanatical followers of, our guru, and, we go on, I'm, just professing and trying to, you may say, publicize our spiritual master and spread his glories. No, it is not, this is not, fanaticism. He's talking about a very deep, very sober faith in the spiritual master, and to carry out the instructions, right, of the guru, right, with heart and soul. So this should be done in a very mature way and not in a fanatical way. That and this, this is a point that can be discussed later as well, but we must understand this principle. So there are many other things, basic things about our Siddhanta, which we all should know. And it doesn't mean that we should all become great scholars, but at least basic things about Krishna consciousness and the process, we should have clarity, because that clarity will help us through many, many different situations. And the biggest advantage of having clarity is that it gives us inspiration, because this clarity is powerful. It is like so purely, it's purifying, and it is very powerfully inspiring. Right? So it will keep us enthused through many difficult situations that we will be in. Right? So like, for example, when we go through difficult situations, if we understand the Siddhanta of Krishna consciousness, why difficulties come, right? Which are the verses we should take shelter of, then it makes our faith and it makes our ability to handle these situations, it gives us much more strength to handle these situations. Right? So again, it's not to become a Sanskrit scholar, it is not to become, but at least basic principles we should have a very sound understanding of. Okay. Now coming to the second principle of, which has, really helped me, and that is that along with understanding the basic Siddhanta, we have to develop the right attitude to practice devotional service. Right? In fact, Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Instruction, in the preface, right, he says that he says that that advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. So attitude means हमारा mindset, right? What is our mindset? हमारी approach कैसी है Krishna consciousness में? Because we may know the basic philosophy, we may know the basic siddhanta, right? But if we do not develop the right attitude, then we will not be able to carry out that siddhanta in the right spirit. And doing the things in the right spirit are as important as understanding the siddhanta, right? So, in fact, Prabhupada, he says many different things on this, right? And this whole book, Nectar of Instruction, the first 3 verses are so important for us because they give us, you know, the guidelines of what is the right attitude in Krishna consciousness. And it's very simple, right? Srila Rupa Goswami has, it's beautifully, like, he has cleared what our attitude should be, right? That as aspiring devotees, we must control, you know, our senses, right? We should aspire to control, and we should practice in controlling our senses, right? Vachu vegam, right? The desires of the, you know, our desire to talk, like, you know, our speech, right? Our mind, our anger, then the you know, the desires of the belly and the genitals, right? So all these desires, we, you know, and our senses, we should try to control. And how are we going to control that? By following what is favorable for Krishna consciousness, and by avoiding those things that are not favorable for Krishna consciousness. So those are verses 2 and 3, right? Atyahara prayascha prajalpo niyam agraha, right? Jana sangascha lolyam cha sadbhi bhakti vinashyati. So all these things we should know, right? Over endeavoring, collecting too much, you know, and all the rest of the, you know, things that being greedy, having too much association with non-devotees. So all these 6 principles that he talks about, they should be a guide. So whenever, you know, our Krishna consciousness, we feel it's not moving ahead, you know, so we can see, okay, are we doing things that are favorable for our Krishna consciousness? And are we avoiding things that are not favorable for our Krishna consciousness? Okay. And then, of course, the verse by, you know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Shikshastakam, you know, where he says that there is also a key verse for developing the right attitude. It is the epitome, it is the crux of having the right attitude in Krishna consciousness, which is Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahi Suna Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sadahari. So this is a verse that we hear a lot, right? It is quoted a lot, but it is a verse that we cannot live without. Right? There is no Krishna consciousness without this verse, right? Because this is the basic, fundamental attitude of a devotee. Right? So following those first 3 verses, and in this verse, they form the basic attitude of Krishna consciousness. Of course, there are many other things, but these are the 4 verses that we should always keep in the forefront, right? And so that whenever when we feel we are not making progress, then we can reflect that, you know, are we following these things or not? Right? And by reflecting on this, then we can bring ourselves back on track, bring our mind on track, bring our practices on track, right? And along with this, there is also what I would say part of our attitude is also formed by setting the right expectations in Krishna consciousness. So what do I mean by that? That sometimes we struggle in Krishna consciousness because we have the wrong expectations. So for example, एक expectation हो सकती है कि अब हम भक्ति में आए हैं तो अब सब कुछ स्मूथ रहेगा लाइफ में. In fact, I was speaking to one devotee, and he said that, one of the reasons he thought that, Krishna consciousness would be a easy lifestyle, smooth, material world में इतना struggle करना पड़ता है, इतना मारा मारी, इतना competition, इतना ये, at least Krishna consciousness में at least सब कुछ, आराम से चलेगा, peacefully चलेगा. After all, Krishna, we are, worshipping the Supreme Lord, and we are struggling, to become conscious of Him. So obviously, naturally, Krishna will, keep everything very smooth for us, right? But many of you who have been in Krishna consciousness for long, life, even for devotees, sometimes is not very smooth. In fact, sometimes it becomes very, very difficult. So we must keep the right expectation. Another expectation we may have is that, yes, very quickly within, few years, we will be, chanting like the 6 Goswamis. We'll be fully detached, and we'll be fully, 24 hours engaged in Krishna Bhakti, high level of advancement very soon. So again, that is not the right expectation. Another expectation we may have is that, everyone is so pure, in Krishna consciousness. So again, we see that Prabhupada says, no, this is a hospital for the diseased soul. So people, we have come to ISKCON with all our, baggage of material desires and material diseases. Right? Pura bag bhar ke aaye. Right? So, we can't expect that, all we will experience is all pure, pure, pure. Pure association always. No, it's not. So there are many expectations that, are not right. And many times we get disappointed because our expectation is wrong. Not because what happens is wrong, because the expectation is wrong. Right? So when we align the expectations with the expectations given in the Shastra, right, then we will be able to approach and practice Krishna consciousness without getting disappointed very quickly, right? Because there will be many challenges, right? Our mind is a challenge. The environment is a challenge. There is, challenge in the temple. There is challenge in the association of devotees. So there are challenges everywhere, right? So it is very important that we form the right expectations and treat Krishna consciousness like a marathon, right? And not a dash, and keep the right attitude in Krishna consciousness. So that, through this journey, which will be full of many, many obstacles as well, we will be able to continue with enthusiasm and with focus and with determination. Right? And how do we, suppose I know the basic principle number 1, I know the Siddhanta, right? For example, and I know what it means. I understand these basic verses about the attitude, and I have memorized these verses, and I know the purports, and I'm clear, right? But is clarity only once? Right? Or do we need to be constantly hearing the message? Right? So we may take a Bhakti Shastri course and we become clear on the principles. But does our hearing end there? Right? So one thing is that, which is principle number 3, right? That we must always have a strong program for hearing Prabhupada's lectures and reading Prabhupada's books. So even though we may develop the right understanding for some time, but if we are not constantly hearing, right, we can easily become distracted, and memories in Kali Yuga are very short, right? थोड़े दिन बाद कुछ नहीं याद रहता है. अगर हम constantly नहीं सुने तो कुछ नहीं याद रहता है. I'll just give you an example. Just 2-3 days ago, I gave one example in a talk, and after 2 days, I couldn't remember the name of that person who I spoke about. So this is the level of our memory. And as we get older, unfortunately, our memory also starts to become weaker. Right? So constant hearing is a very, very important principle of Krishna consciousness, right? It is not like ऐसा नहीं है कि करने से अच्छा होगा. नहीं करेंगे तो it is very difficult to make progress. In fact, Prabhupada says, he says that the first and foremost of such devotional engagements is hearing about Krishna, right? This is very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. And Prabhupada says in the first canto, he writes that actually everything is guided by the quality of our hearing. If our hearing becomes weak, right, if our reading becomes weak, then even our chanting and all our other devotional activities will start to weaken. So when there is a strong dose of hearing, Prabhupada's lectures and Prabhupada's books, and of course, Prabhupada's books are the basis, and we can also hear, our Guru Maharaj's lectures, and also those devotees who, who inspire us and who themselves read Prabhupada's books. We can listen to their lectures, but reading Prabhupada's books is very essential, right? Part of our process. And Prabhupada, when we read his purports, right? And then when Prabhupada says books are the basis, that means something. Uska kuch, matlab hai, it has some importance. When he says books are the basis, that means that is the foundation of our spiritual life. The knowledge that Prabhupada has given and the way he has presented the Siddhanta, right? It's very, very important to hear on a regular basis, because that is what will help us to keep the Siddhanta clear, and it will also help us to keep attitude clear. Right? And it will help us in executing all our activities in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada says, and we've all heard this verse, this is the basis, Shrinvata Swakatha Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridayantastohi Abhadrani, Vidhonati Surata Satam. So this constant hearing, right? By this hearing, all the misgivings, all the kachra jo hamare hriday mein, jama hai, kitne lifetimes se, right? Aste aste kya hoga? Krishna himself will clean, the power of his words, the power of hearing, the glory of Krishna, right? It will clear all these misgivings from our heart, right? And we all have this experience that when we hear properly in a submissive mood, right, and we carry out those instructions, how many miracles happen in our lives, right? So we should make this a constant part of our day, a regular feature of our day, right? To hear, this wonderful message that Prabhupada has given, in the Shastras. So I will stop here today. We have another 10 minutes. So if you have any questions on the first 3 principles that we have discussed, or any realizations you would like to share. Sorry, Giriraj Prabhu, I got carried away with English. It always happens. Maafi chahta hu. Lekin ek din, hopefully, more and more I stay in Delhi, आस्ते आस्ते, आदत बनेगी, हिंदी में बात करने की. So, hopefully one day I'll come to that situation where I can naturally speak in Hindi, So I beg forgiveness from you.
It was very good. Rather, and that line also, ये principles आपने बताए, देखिए, जितने भी principles प्रभु जी ने बताए, 3 बताए हैं 9 में से, but ये सारे के सारे इतने सालों के इनकी साधना का निचोड़ है, उसी की हमने कैसे भक्ति में आगे बढ़ना है. और वो जो लाइन है नेक्टर ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन की, वो मेरी बहुत फेवरेट है कि एडवांसमेंट इन कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस डिपेंड्स अपॉन द एटीट्यूड ऑफ द फॉलोअर. इसका तो फ्रेम करके घर ऑल्टर के साथ में लगाना चाहिए इस लाइन को. दिस इज सच ए वंडरफुल लाइन बिकॉज एवरीथिंग एल्स इज सेकेंडरी. मेन थिंग इज आवर एटीट्यूड. सो एनीवे, आई विल नॉट टेक मोर टाइम. सो डिवोटीज, डू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस? अभी जो भी आपने सुना प्रभु जी से, अगर कोई क्वेश्चन है तो यू कैन आस्क क्वेश्चन. Can raise hands.
Yes, Saurabh Prabhuji. Yes.
Krishna
Saurabh Prabhu, you
Prabhuji.
can ask. Yes.
Prabhuji, I have 2 questions. So Prabhuji, first is like when we say bhakti done, which is free from desire for knowledge. So Prabhuji, what is the meaning of this, like free from desire for knowledge?
So what are we trying to gain knowledge for, right? So the knowledge of Krishna and surrendering to Krishna, that is essential, right? As Prabhupada said, that is the basis, the books are the basis. So that understanding is very essential for us to become more devoted to the Lord, right? But if we are just cultivating knowledge to be a scholar, right, or to be, for any other, like to look more, increase our, you can say our reputation as a preacher, or, so then those things will become an obstacle for us. So yes, we can study Krishna consciousness in more depth so we can preach effectively. But ultimately that preaching is for what, right? To increase our surrender, not for any other ulterior motives. Right? So knowledge should be free from, knowledge for surrender, that is good. But knowledge for other motives, then, increasing our surrender towards the Lord, that will not be helpful ultimately for our Krishna consciousness. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have another question.
Yes.
Prabhuji, you mentioned about this verse, na janam, na dhanam, na sundarim. So how to apply it practically? Because in life we do like, so how to apply this?
So this is a very powerful verse, and we may not be able to apply, everything. In fact, many of the verses in Krishna consciousness, we cannot apply them, fully immediately, right? But that does not mean we just keep them on the side. कि हाँ ये बहुत, you know, ये one of the worst things we can do as a devotee is say that अरे ये तो, you know, ये तो गोस्वामीज के लिए है, ये हमारे लिए नहीं है. हम लोग तो, you know, ordinary devotees हैं. ये जब सो ये, you know, ये जो, you know, ज्ञान दिया गया है भागवतम में और, you know, सीसी में, these were very elevated souls. So that means that we have, you know, पहले से हाथ धो लिया. So that attitude is very dangerous. But we have to understand that we cannot artificially imitate these verses as well. Right? So we have to keep these in the forefront. We have to appreciate the depth of these verses, and gradually in our lives try to and keep these verses as a guide. That suppose, you know, when we feel our material desires are increasing, right, then we can refer that, oh, this is not good for us. Right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that, you know, don't get attracted, you know, so much by the opposite sex. Right? Don't get attracted by wealth. These things are attractive. You know, in the material world, these things like they're glittering, you know, they're just, you know, dangling like carrots for us. And unfortunately today we live in a world where so we are being seduced, you know, through so many seductive messages and advertisements and this and that, and, you know, so we have to keep these verses in the forefront to help us and gradually make progress and gradually deepen our realization. Right? And this will happen naturally, you know, the more we engage in bhakti. Right? Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha. Right? So the more we engage in bhakti, right, what will happen? Janyati asu vairagyam. Right? Jnanam chatu ahitukam. So it will happen automatically, but we need to keep engaging. We need to keep engaging ourselves in devotional service with a humble attitude, with a tolerant attitude, with, you know, patience, enthusiasm, and keep these verses in the forefront. In fact, like, you know, when I was as a student, when I visited the Dallas temple for the first time, right, and I was staying in the Brahmachari ashram, so I saw these two verses. They were put on the wall by the bed I was staying, you know, and which was like Trinadapi Sunichina and Na Dhanam Na Janam Na Sundarim. And when I saw those two verses, I thought, like, wow, you know, these verses are like out of the world, you know, because material life is totally opposite. And these verses are like, you know, they're like another whole dimension. You're entering a whole different dimension. But I was so like, means, जैसे होता ना, bowled over. No, पूरा एकदम, माने, they just, you know, melted my like heart. Like I saw those verses. So to tell you honestly, even after 27 years, I don't know the full Shikshastakam, right? But I know these two verses, which I, you know, which I try to chant in, you know, every day, right? So, like, you know, the later verses of the Shikshastakam, I don't know that much, right? I know the English, but I don't know the Sanskrit. But these two verses I say every day, or I try to say every day to, you know, for my tough head, you know, for my, you know, very, you can say, बहुत ही stone-like heart. I need to hear these verses every day. So Prabhuji, we have Mahaprabhu Kirtan Prabhu who has raised his hand. Do you have a question, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes. अच्छा, हरि बोल.
प्रभुजी, धन्यवाद, प्रणाम प्रभुजी.
धन्यवाद. आपने तो ये वाला तो सुन लिया है.
प्रभुजी, मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है.
आप अपनी रियलाइजेशन शेयर करो माता जी.
प्रभुजी, जी क्या मैं हिंदी में पूछ सकती हूँ?
हाँ जी, हिंदी में पूछिए माता जी।
प्रभु जी अभी आपने बताया ना
थोड़ा सा माता जी आपको कंप्यूटर के या फोन के सामने आके बात करनी पड़ेगी ताकि सब सुन सके।
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, आपने अभी, मेरी आवाज आ रही है प्रभु जी?
हाँ जी, आवाज आ रही है।
ने बताया कि श्रृणवताम स्वकथा कृष्णा श्रवण के हृदयस्थो है भद्राणी विदुनोति सुहृसताम। फिर आगे आता है नष्ट प्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यम भागवत सेवया। तो प्रभु जी मेरा ये प्रश्न है कि मैं श्रील प्रभुपाद जी के ग्रंथ भी पढ़ती हूँ, लेक्चर भी सुनती हूँ, लेकिन भी मेरे से गलतियां हो जाती हैं, जैसे कि अहम भाव आ जाता है, क्रोध आ जाता है, धैर्य नहीं रहता, और मैं ये सोचती हूँ कि मेरे अनुकूल ही सब कुछ हो, ऐसा सोचती हूँ। तो प्रभु जी ये अभद्र फिर कैसे दूर होंगे? तो मेरा अध्ययन और श्रवण में मतलब क्या मेरी कमी है मेरे अध्ययन और श्रवण में? मुझे किस प्रकार से करना चाहिए अध्ययन और श्रवण? कृपया मुझे गाइड कीजिए।
सुमाता जी, लाइक हमें सेल्फ रिफ्लेक्शन भी बहुत जरूरी है। सो जहाँ पे हम हर समय, जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं भी अपना एक एग्जाम्पल दूं कि कभी कभी गुस्सा आ जाता है बच्चों के साथ, तो हम इतना प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं तब भी हम कभी कभी बच्चों के साथ गुस्सा कर लेते हैं। फिर बच्चे हमें बोलते हैं आप बड़े बड़े लेक्चर देते हो और हमारे ऊपर गुस्सा कर रहे हो। तो so we learn from our children as well, so we have to reflect back. Constant reflection is also required. Not that we go through Krishna consciousness just as a routine. Just हाँ मेरा हियरिंग हो गया आज का, मेरा ये भी हो गया, मेरी 16 माला भी हो गई, मैंने 2 एक्स्ट्रा भी कर लिए, मैंने ये भी कर लिया, वो भी कर लिया, ये भी पाठ कर लिया. लेकिन what about, we have to reflect that how our consciousness is developing on a day-to-day basis, where we end up in trouble, right? What are the things that get us into trouble? We all have our weaknesses, right? So by constantly reflecting on that, like for example, if we always think that हमारा ये जो आप जैसे भाव बोल रहे थे कि I am the doer, I am the controller, I know this, so how will it be lessened? So we reflect on this and we hear particular things in the Shastra where devotees, they break through this, जैसे भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर के songs, right? He really comes down on himself very heavily. So if we have a tendency to be always asserting ourselves that I'm the doer, I'm this, then we can hear more parts of the Shastra that speak about dainya, जो ह्यूमिलिटी के ऊपर ज्यादा एम्फेसिस देते हैं, जो ये सब टॉपिक्स पे ज्यादा रिफ्लेक्शन होती है. So I personally feel that, like, these, especially to cultivate humility is so important. So we read these these writings of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, especially his bhajans, right? These bhajans are like, these are Shastra themselves, right? So like we read, like the way he expresses in his songs, like how fallen he is, how crooked his mind is, and he's expressing the mind of a sadhak, right? Of a materialistic, a person who's in the material world, the materialistic tendencies which we all have, right? And we are trying to purify. So the more we can hear these, and the more we can hear about, say, like on one hand is this, and on the other hand, like say, like the humility of Raghunath Das Goswami, the humility of our Guru Maharaj, right? The humility of Srila Prabhupada, so the more we hear about the great souls, right, their great example, their prayers, I feel that is the best way. And then we practice, right? We practice more tolerance, we reflect on ourselves, and we keep trying and we keep praying. Praying to Krishna, that is another thing which I will discuss later on. That prayer is so important that ultimately we are just beggars. जितना भी हमारे को ज्ञान हो, जो भी हो, ultimately we have to understand that we are, just beggars for the mercy of Krishna, our Guru Maharaj, and all the Vaishnavas, right? So by their mercy and by constant practice, one day, this is Krishna's guarantee, this is Prabhupada's guarantee that success will happen, but when it will happen, that is not in our hands. But the only thing is that we can continue to try. Right?
प्रभु जी प्रेयर्स में हम क्या बोलें, भजन हम गाएं, भजन आपने बोला कि उसको पढ़ें, लेकिन हमारी जो प्रेयर्स हैं, हम जैसे महाराज से आपने बोला, श्रील प्रभुपाद से, तो हम कैसे प्रेयर्स करें?
तो प्रेयर्स जहाँ हम स्पेशली हमारी लैकिंग है माता जी,
अच्छा,
तो उसके लिए हम निवेदन कर सकते हैं भगवान से कि देखिए मैं बहुत हम ट्राई करते हैं तब भी हम फेल होते हैं. जैसे like I'm just using my personal example. Sometimes I get angry, so every day I have to pray that God, today please help me to keep my calm. When the situation becomes very, you can say, crazy, please help me, to remember you and to keep my, composure, right? It's so important to pray because ultimately we are so helpless at the end of the day. But by praying and by constant reflection and by recognizing our weaknesses and by taking steps to rectify them, that in itself is such a good activity. And ultimately, because it is so, all we can do is try to do the right things, and rest, it is up to Krishna to take care. So, बस हमें लगे रहना चाहिए with the right attitude, and not be disheartened.
ठीक है प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद प्रभु जी.
Hare Krishna.
हरे
So Prabhuji, we have gone 10 minutes over time.
Yes,
So unless anyone would like to share any other realization, there are many devotees. I'm seeing some devotees who have already heard this session before. So Srinivas Prasad Prabhu is also there. Prabhuji, you'd like to share any realization? Raman Prabhu?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for wonderful class. Yes, we actually need to hear such kind of classes regularly. As you said, so it should be like a week. These classes should be on the weekly basis actually, for conditioned souls like us. Especially me, I'm talking about myself. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So grateful to you.
We wanted you to share your realization.
You please pray that we can follow whatever you have spoken, these 3 points and most important verses which you have mentioned. So please pray that we can just follow all these wonderful verses and the teachings of Srila Prabhupada in our lives.
So Giriraj Prabhu, you want to close it? Any closing comments or realization you would like to share? Please share.
Like I said, that attitude of a devotee is most important. Everything's darshan and philosophy is okay, but as we grow, और मैं सब भक्तों से यही निवेदन करता हूँ कि देखिए जो सीनियर डिवोटीज आते हैं, because they've gone so much in their life, तो ये क्या है उनकी भक्ति का निचोड़ है. जैसे प्रभु जी बता रहे हैं 27 साल है, 27 साल में जितने हम प्रभु जी ने पापड़ बेले हैं कृष्ण कॉन्शियसनेस में, जो भी उतार चढ़ाव देखे हैं, ये उसका निचोड़ है. So he's sharing that realization with us, what helped him, so what helped him, because he's also like us. If we follow him, it will help us also, और यही भक्तों का जो बड़ापन होता है कि जो उनसे जहाँ फिसल जाते हैं या अपने में हमें लगता है तो हम दूसरों को सिखाना चाहते हैं कि जो हमने किया वो आप मत कीजिए। सो ये जितने प्रिंसिपल्स प्रभु जी बता रहे हैं ना, इनको सीखिए और और ध्यान से अगर हम सुनते हैं तो we will find कि they are all very practical. These are not theory classes. Prabhu is taking, these are practical Krishna consciousness. So
Prabhuji, Ronnie Prabhu had a question. Should
yes,
we take it?
yes, we can take. Ronnie Prabhu, go ahead, please.
Okay, so one last question. Huh? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for a wonderful session. Prabhu, I have a question that, like you mentioned, that we should take the blessings of a spiritual master and we should serve him and to progress. It is very important. So my question is that we may not have that much interaction with our spiritual master or aspires or from whom we are aspiring, or we may not have so many direct instructions. So if we are serving in our Bhakti Vriksha and we're doing things nicely in our Bhakti Vriksha and we are engaging in that mood, so will that also be pleasing to our spiritual master? Or
Yes, so this is a very practical reality for most of the devotees, right? Especially in today's world. Then many of us, we do not have the physical association of our spiritual master, and nor do we have the opportunity even for any, personal instructions or. So sometimes this may not always be possible. Now, one thing is that in this kind of situations, when we do, surrender to our spiritual master, we must like to hear him, right? Or hear his lectures. Because if we are not keen to hear the lectures of our spiritual master, then that deep connection becomes very difficult. So not that we will get personal instructions, but even general lectures of our spiritual master, and many are given to sometimes even in a very intimate settings with disciples, and where, the spiritual master really reveals his heart to the disciples, which may not always happen in public lectures, right? And I know that every, like say, spiritual masters, sometimes they take their disciples on yatra, and where they have more, closer and intimate, realizations they share, right? What they would like their disciples to see, what pleases them. So these are the things we need to catch, right? And these are the things we need to, because those things are meant for us personally, even though they are given in a large setting, right, with many disciples, but those things are important for each disciple individually. So many of Prabhupada's disciples never saw him, right? They got initiation even through the through the mail, right? They got proxy initiations, right? They didn't meet him. Sometimes, many of our leading, preachers and, Guru Maharajas, they never met, they had only very few interactions with Prabhupada, right? And they may not even have gotten a direct instruction. But that does not mean that, Prabhupada's instructions are not meant for all his disciples. There's Prabhupada is sharing his heart and his purports. Any disciple or any grand disciple, can easily read and connect that what does Prabhupada want. It's so clear when we read. When we don't read, everything is fuzzy, right? When we read and we continuously read, right, there are gems. Prabhupada is like, almost every purport has, a gem in there. Like a really amazing, out of the world kind of, realization that's expressed. So we may not have, but that does not mean, but one thing is that we must like to hear the lectures. Or suppose if our spiritual master writes to write books, we should read those. So some personal connection has to be there. Right? Especially through sound, especially through hearing. And then when we hear, we can try and carry out, we get a better understanding of their mood. And then when we carry out their mood in our bhakti vikshas or wherever, right? Because what does every spiritual master want, right? He wants us to love Krishna. He wants us to love the devotees. He wants us to have appreciation for the, holy names, right? To serve Prabhupada's mission. So many things are very common, right? And there may be some things that are unique, like, one spiritual master may want for us to contribute, say, in developing bhakti viksha, right? So suppose our spiritual master has that, he's emphasizing that. So we can assist him by increasing more bhakti vikshas and serving in that way. Right? Someone may, have a temple project, right? So we may assist personally in that project. So that personal bond is also there, right? It's not just all general.
Yes,
I hope that answers that.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for patiently hearing. So we will connect again next week if Krishna allows, and we will go. Hopefully we will. I don't know. Today I got stuck only on 3. I was hoping at least I'd finish 4, but anyway, we will. Whatever time we have, we will try to finish whatever we can. Right? It's okay. The pace was okay, Giriraj Prabhu?
Yes.
Huh?
All well. Yes.
Okay.
All
All
well.
right.
And we are very thankful to you for
Hare
taking
Krishna.
time.
Thank you all very much.
Yes, to give
Hare
us
Krishna.
this
Devancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you so very much, devotees. I hope you all got something personal to think and also to apply in our life. So thank you so much. So tomorrow, like I said, from this week, हमारा जो model है वो change हो गया है. So tomorrow we will have Prabhupada Leelamrit, and then Saturday we have Preeti Vardhan Maharaj. Harinam Chintamani continues, and Sunday morning we will tell you. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow we will tell you that we have a very big surprise for you on Sunday. Sunday morning we have a very good surprise for you, all of you. So I will disclose it tomorrow. So thank you so very much for joining. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Giriraj Prabhu, for being so merciful.
Oh, कैसे हैं प्रभु? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
Thank you.
There.
Thank you so much.
How are you, Prabhu?
Very fine, Prabhuji.
I know you have attachment for Nitai Prabhu.